yesterday I was over at Monumental recording this show, and I ended up in a weird bet discussion with Tischler about. Tell me where you land on this too, B. Jahan Dotson, Luke McCaffrey, and you can let it be fairly nebulous. Who has the more successful season?
That's tough. I mean, the upside has to be with Dotson, right? So, like, if you're just, if we're just having the discussion on who it should be, it's probably Dotson because he's got the new quarterback. He's got an offensive-minded, he's got the offensive coordinator in Kingsbury new and, maybe takes the top off the offense. I mean, who knows? I would think the upside is with Dotson, so I probably have to say that, even though the unknowns with McCaffrey. But there was a lot of hype for him coming into this organization, and we've seen
and
flashes
he had a good
of it.
rookie season.
Yeah, so I think you'd have to go with Dotson.
Yeah.
I'm on Dotson. Mitch took McCaffrey.
I would go with Dotson because I think Dotson is probably going to be a guy who you're going to have on the outside for the most part. He'll be on the field a little bit more than the slot guy is going to be on the field. And you would say that he'll have more opportunities.
And I think, he's the guy that helps unlock Terry McLaurin, right? I mean, I don't know if McCaffrey is that guy to do that. I know if Dotson is playing well, you have to focus on him. Otherwise, the rest of the offense might be able to pick you apart, specifically McLaurin. I just think that there's just so much more incentives to get Dotson to where everyone thinks he should be. The ceiling's higher. I just think that that's the safer play.
But as you lean towards some of the stories coming out of the building is that Jaden Daniels and McCaffrey have this great rapport already.
Dotson, too.
Listen, I was a former quarterback, and people can say what you want. Yeah, you got your best receivers, but you got the ones that you really like a lot, and you trust them more, and you let the ball go to him a lot more often than you do the guy that's supposed to be the best.
And McCaffrey, I think it's way too early to read too much into this because they kind of just move guys around to everywhere in May.
Mm-hmm.
But McCaffrey has been lining up out, not just exclusively in the slot, which is interesting, too.
Well, that's smart.
But, yeah, I agree with that. And he's big. Like, you don't have to confine a dude to the slot. Greenberg, I'm going through your Twitter, and there a couple things stand out to me. Explain this Jordan Love thing to me, the Packers quarterback. And B, maybe we do a what do they got Packers next. But I'm looking at these numbers with Jordan Love. How good was he last year?
I think he was a lot better than people think. It's a situation that
that's the Niners.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I think that again, he had we didn't really know what he was going to be coming into this thing, and he, depending on what you look at, Pro Football Focus had him as the 8th best quarterback of 2023, and that means he did everything. He did a lot of things right. Like maybe the end result wasn't great, but just from a process standpoint, he was in the top quarter of the league starting quarterbacks. But then you look at ESPN's total quarterback rating, which is an objective rating and the actual numbers of it, and he was number 9. So to say that he was a top 10 quarterback, I think is pretty safe. Having a top 10 quarterback in the league is obviously a tremendous amount of value. I'm not sure he'd be on the list of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL if you ask people to kind of, rattle them off their head. I mean, C.J. Stroud was 15th in QBR. I'm sure they put him ahead of Jordan Love, Joe Burrow. So I think that that's probably the shocking point. But again, I mean, both a subjective and an objective take on his performance of the season had him as a top 10 quarterback.
That sounds like I'm hearing some fantasy value there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the rest of the rest of your league doesn't feel we're reading my timeline, I guess, or where I got it from. But yeah, that's kind of what you want to look at. I mean, you want to look at those type of situations, and for fantasy in particular, getting a guy like that obviously it paid dividends because he wasn't probably one of the top 10 quarterbacks drafted. I do think Jaden Daniels has a chance to be a fantasy upside type quarterback. Not to say he's going to be top 10, but I think unless you're in a local league, he probably won't be drafted too high. But again, the ceiling's high. We talked about the new faces and everything. Having your second quarterback have upside is really all you can ask for.
I'm talking with our friend Neil Greenberg here from the Washington Post. You can follow him on X at @ngreenberg. He's a great fisherman. I had to tell Fortier this last week. Now I'm gonna tell you this. I am a huge fan. I am a subscriber. I have read the Washington Post my whole life. It is the paper of record in my life. I don't know who's in charge of these polls for you, but I can save y'all some money. Stop running these polls. I'll just give you the answers. Because I just see this headline. Most D.C. area sports fans dislike or hate the name Commanders. Well, Greenberg, I could have saved you the money and told you that. Anyway, just have the posters listen to our callers, and boom, you got it.
That's true. I will say that our deputy poster is a very good friend of mine, Emily Gux. She does great work. And I think it's more of just getting, into the nuances of it. Just like we would never say, Boston probably wins the NBA title. Like we go into it a step further and try to explain, where is the, where are the pain points for the name and all that other stuff. So, I get it. A lot of this stuff, a lot of stuff that I write is, like duh moments.
Yeah.
But I will
hit him with a yeah.
No, I'm not talking about his stuff. I'm talking about, I read a lot of things. I'm going, man, they could have just stopped this at the beginning.
You're right. And you're absolutely right. But yeah, I mean, I think, I think to me, it's interesting to see like where they want the name to go, right? Like that to me is the more interesting part of this whole thing. And, how unpopular is it really? I don't know if it's as unpopular as people think. I mean, also your radio show is kind of like an echo chamber of sorts, right? Because it's hyper-focused on the team, and the people that are upset are more vocal than the people that aren't. So I think giving context to stuff like that is always good.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And I think because of this senator kicking around this logo thing has kind of made it more relevant. Brian has a theory.
And the T-shirt at training camp didn't help either.
That's true. I forgot about that. Brian has a theory, which I tend to agree with. I think the name stinks, but I think if Jaden Daniels comes out and balls out and they go 11-6, I think opinions can change fast. Do you agree with that, or do you think it's more deep rooted?
I do agree with that because unless it's offensive, if the team is winning, no one really cares what it's called.
Yeah.
Right. Like you don't lament the name after a 14-3 season. Like that's not what the talking point is. So yeah, winning cures a lot of stuff. I mean, if you win, there's a lot of things that people are willing to put aside and just not care about anymore. They'll care more about getting those other 3 wins than they would what the team name is.
There you go.
So yeah, I think that the new ownership and everybody involved, can endear the team name to people. I'll be honest, the logo didn't really wow me when they came out with it. Just the W, and I felt like it was. I felt like there wasn't a lot of thought put into it in terms of like the whole piece of the puzzle. The name being the least of my concerns. But again, you win, no one's going to care. They're going to be talking about Jaden Daniels and everything else that's happening. And, the focus really should be on that, not necessarily what the team's called.
You go. Totally.
I agree with that.